These are the questions you may see under indices in waec, neco, and jam, or any of the external examination. Now I'm going to look at this. This is just the first part. It's going to be split out into two parts, the first part and the second part. The first part, we are going to look at all these things. Then we'll now move on to more complex parts under this one. Now the first question, let's solve that together. You can pause the video and solve it on. Well, let me see how you go about it. Now they say 5 raised power minus 2. Now I told you that this minus, we turn this one to 1 over 5. That'll be what? 1 over 5 raised power of what? The minus I turned this into, we have raised power of 2 times. Now I told you that this thing will become 4th root. 4th root of 16. This is what you do. The raised power of what? Raised power of 3. So what you have now, you have 1 squared is 1, right? Over 5 squared is what? Is 25. Times 4th root of 16 means number you multiply in 4 places that will give us 16. That is 2. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 will give us 16. So that is 2 raised power of what? Raised power of 3. So you have 1 times 2 raised power of 3 is what? Is 8 over what? Over 25. So your final answer here is what? 8. 1 times 8 is 8. 8 over 25. That is that for that one. Let's check for number 2. Number 2, the same thing here. Now this, no, this one is a bracket. It means this minus 2 is addressing both of them. This minus, I told that to turn to what? 1 over. It means this thing is over 1. This one will go up. This 2a will come down. So you have 1 over 2a, right? Then the minus has turned this into like this. So you have raised power what? Raised power of 2 times 5a. Now you now have 1 squared is 1, right? Over, now 2a squared is, I told you that this 2 is distributed. This is 2 raised power 2 raised power 2. 2 raised power 2 is what? Is 4. Then a what? A squared times what? Times 5a. Then you can divide this a here, we cancel one of this a here. So your final answer is 1 times 4. 1 times 5 is what? That is 5. 5 over 4a. Do you get that now? That is that for that. And number 3. Now this number 3 looks a little bit tricky. What you are going to do is that you convert this number into a whole number, into a fraction. Now you move this thing 3 times forward. 1, 2, 3 to move to the last number. So you move thrice. That will be, to convert this 0.216 to a fraction will be what? 216 over, how many times do you move? You move 3 times. That means it's 0, 3, 0. You write 1 first. 1, 2, 3. Now, then you have what? You have minus 2 over 3. This is what you have. Now, what I told you earlier, this minus, it means this one will move up, this one will move down. So what you have now, you have 1000 over what? Over 216. That's what it is. That's what the minus turned into. Then you have what you are now. What do you now have left? 2 over what? 2 over 3. Now, to move on now, this one I told that it becomes the cube root. So you have the cube root. You have 3 here. Then you have 1000 here. 1000 over what? Over 216. Everything raised power of what? Raised power of what? Raised power of 2. Now, what you now have here now is that cube root of 1000 is, it means what number we multiply in 3 places that will give us 1000. That is 10. 10 times 10 times 10 is 1000. That is 10 over cube root of 216. 6 times 6 times 6 is give us 216. If I'm right, this is not. It should be 6. 6. Then raised power of what? You still have what? You still have 2 here. So 10 squared is what? 10 squared is what? Is 100. Now 6 squared is what? Is what? Is 36. So you can divide to the lowest, no problem. This is your final answer. So let's move on to the next one. Let me clean all this one here. Pause the video and copy this down in your notes. Well, I would like to move to the next slide to avoid, but since we're almost done with this, we'll just go straight to the point. Okay, I've cleaned that one. No problem. Let me just solve I will write that one part of. Let me solve to avoid wasting our time. Now you have the next one. You have this now. If you see this thing, this 3 now. If you have anything cube here, root or anything, you're going to use to divide the power. You know, I told that this 8, it means this 8, you know, it has a power of 1 originally. Now you're using this 3 to divide it. 1 over 3. Then this a raised power what? Minus 6 over 3. You can recall this cube root is talking about you are using to divide. Assuming it's cube, you are multiplying by what? By 3. Now, because it's cube root, is root, you are dividing by 3. So this 8 1 over 3, you know I told you earlier that this thing will become cube root. It means what number we multiply in 3 places that give us 8 is what? Is 2. That one is done. This one, 6 divided by 3, it is 2. So you have a raised power what? Minus 2. And you can still go further on this. This is 2. Now, note this minus 6 only affecting a. So it will be 1 times 1 over a squared. Because this 2 means 2 times a raised power minus 2. So you know as 2 times, you know, minus this one is over 1. 1 will go up. That minus will turn into 1 will go up. A will come down. Then you still have squared. So 2 times 1 is 2. So you can have 2 over a squared. That is the answer. So this one I've cleaned it to. Let me clear this frame. So I'll write the question again. Then we'll solve more question on these indices. Now the next one, this is the question. It's taking time. Okay, now you have this question. They give us this question. 4 over 25. Then you have something like this. Minus 1 over 2 times 2 raised power 4 divided by 15 over 2 raised power of what? Raised power of minus 2. Now to solve this now, let's do it one after the other. You know this minus, I told that this will go up, this will come down. This is what the minus will turn into. So you have 25 over 4. That's the first thing. What do you have left? You have 1 over 2. 1 over 2 times, no 2 raised power of 4. That is 2 times 2 times 2 times in 16 in 4 places. That is 16 divided by the same thing happens with this one. This one will go up, this one will come down. 2 over 15 raised power of what? Raised power of what? Raised power of 2. Now in this one I told that this 2 will become the square root. So in this is what you have square root of what? 25 over 4 times 16 divided by, now 2 raised power 2 is what? It is 4. And 15 raised power what? 15 raised power of 2, I think that is 225, if I'm not mistaken. 225. Now when you continue, square root of 25 is what? Is 5. And square root of 4, it is what? It is 2 times, you have 16. In your primary school, you know that this division will turn to what? Will turn to times. This will go up, this will come down. 225 over what? Over 4, if I'm right. So let's do it together. You have here 4 here is what? Is 1. 4 here is 4 and 16 is what? Is 4. Then you have 2 here is 1, right? Then you have 2 here. 2 here is what? Is 2. So 5 times 2 is what? Is 10. 10 times 225 is what? Is 2250. So that is your final answer for this particular solution. You have to simplify. This is what you get as the final answer. Let's look at another one. Let's assume we are given something like this. We are given 56 s raised power minus 4. This is our waec question. Minus 4 divided by 14 s raised power minus what? Minus 8. So how do you do this? Applying the laws of indices. First thing, you divide 56 divided by 14. That is the first thing you have to do. And 56 divided by 14, I think it's 4. It should be 4. 4 times 4 is 16, 4 times. That is 56 divided by 14. These are numbers. You cannot apply these laws of indices because they don't have the same base. So you divide this 56 divided by 14, and 56 divided by 14 is 4. So you write the 4. Now they are both xx. Look at this one. They have the same base, xx. You take one of the x, apply the law. This is minus 4. Apply the laws of indices, minus 4. Division is what? Minus. Then you have what? Minus 8. This minus is for the division, that is there. Then this one also have minus 8 on its own. This is the minus 8 here. So what you now have is what? You have 4x minus 4. Minus times minus is what? Is plus 8, right? So your final answer here will be 4 s raised power minus 4 plus 8 is what? That is plus 4. You are owing somebody 4 naira, you are having 8 now. If you pay, you are still having 4 naira. So this is your final answer. Put this down your notes. Then let's move on to the next one. Now the next one, now let's look at another question. If you are given something like this, let's say you are given something, let's say they give you 1, 2, 5 minus 1 over 3 minus 1 over 3 times 49 minus 1 over 2 times 10 raised power what? 10 raised power 0. You have to simplify. So how do you do this now? The same thing. Now to this minus, you turn this to 1 over 25 because this is over 1. So this minus will turn this to 1 over 3. So you have 1 over 125. Then the minus has been removed. Now you have 1 over 3 times, with them in this one, this minus will turn this into what? 1 over 49. The same thing. What do you have here? You have 1 over what? 1 over 2 times 10 raised power 0. I told you number raised power 0 is what? Is 1 for now. Now this one, this 3 means cube root, Abi. So what you have what? You have cube root 1 over 125. That's what it means. There will be 3 here. That's what this 3 means. Times the same thing. This one will become what? Square root. You don't need to put 2 here because this thing means 2 on its own. 1 over 49 times what? Times 1. So your final answer now, cube root of 1 is what? Is 1. 1 times 1 times 1 is still 1. Cube root of 125 is what? Is 5. Times cube root of square root of 1 is 1 over square root of 49 is 7. 7 times 7 is 49 times what? Times 1. So you have 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. 5 times 7 is what? Is 35. So this is your final answer. Let's move on to another question. Let's play this. Let's assume I give you another one. Let's assume they gave you something like this. They said you should make it in standard form. Give you something like this. You have 8. Sorry. Let me clean this. So you have 8.1 times 10 raised power minus 5 over 1.44 times 10 raised power 4. They ask us to do this, but what? Without using what? Mathematical table or just simplify in standard form. Leave your answer in what? Leave your answer in standard form. In standard form. Now, how do you solve this? Now, to solve this is very easy. If I were you, this is what I would do. I'll take this 1 because I'm not using calculator. It's a theory question, so I'll move this 1. I'll move it here so to become ordinary number. So what I will have here, I have what? Square root of, you have 81 times 10 raised power 10, because you move how many times? What? You move once, right? So that will be 81 times 10 raised power 1. I think times 10 raised power 1, yes, times 10 raised to the power 1 is 810. Oh, what is wrong here? Sorry, I think something is wrong here. But you can use division and divide. I just want to make this one okay. Times 10 raised to the power minus 1, because I move raised to the power minus 1, because that will be 31 over 10. Now 10 raised to the power minus 1, because it's decimal points, I move forward. If I move forward now, it's times 10 raised to the power minus 1. Do you get that logic now? So that is what it will become here. Times what? 10 raised to the power what? Minus what? Minus 5. If you don't understand what this thing means, this means 81 times, this minus means 1 over 10, right? That will be 1 over 10. And if you say 81 times 1, 81 is what? 81 over what? Over 10. So when you move this thing, 10 over 10 means from the back you just move once. So when you divide 81 divided by 10, you get 8.1. So we still get back what is there. That's what it means. So pardon me for the earlier mistake. Over the same thing you do here. This one I want to move how many times forward? 1, 2. That would be what? 144 times 10 raised to the power minus 2. Because you move forward, you converted it to standard form. Did you get that logic? This is already in standard form like this, but as 10 raised to the power 0. But I want to make it in standard form. So I want to make this thing to ordinary form. This ordinary form times a base 10 number. That's what I just did there. It's just a logic something times 10 raised to the power what? 10 raised to the power 4. Now with this now, you can go forward and doing like this. So you have this 81. You have 10 here. So that will be times 10. Now according to laws of units, this one will be plus. Minus 1 plus minus 5. That will give us minus 6. That one is sure. Over this one will be what? 144. 144 times, this one also is what? Is plus. That is minus 2 plus 4. And minus 2 plus 4, that will give us what? 2. 10 raised to the power what? 10 raised to the power 2. So with this now, I told you earlier that you have this one is an invisible one. So the square root of 81 here is what? Is 9, right? Times, now 10 raised to the power minus 6, because 10 raised is minus 6, you have to divide this thing by also what? By 2. You divide also by what? By 2. So 6 divided by 2 is minus 3. That is 10 raised to the power what? Minus 3. You have to move the square root like that. This one also, square root of 144 is what? Is 12 times 2 divided by 2 is what? That is raised to the power what? Raised to the power 1. So when I divide 9 divided by 12, let me use my calculator here. Calculator. So when I divide 9 divided by 12, 9 divided by 12, 9 divided by 12 divided by 12, that gives us 0.75. So 0.75. So 9 divided by 12, we have what? 0.75 times, they are both 10. Remember, this is division. So this will be minus 3. And division is just like saying 10 raised to the power minus 3 divided by 10 raised to the power 1. And division means what? Minus. So it will be, you pick one of the 10, which is here, then minus 3, then this one is what? Minus 1. So you have, let me clean this space to write the meaning. You want to clear the background, let me just clean it off. So here now, what you have 0.75 times 10 raised to the power minus 4. Now in standard form, I told you earlier that you have to move this thing once. So this is where the point should be. There is normal standard form. So it's 7.5 times 10 raised to the power. You only move on. This thing is start from 0 point, is negative. So you add minus 1 to this. That what? Minus 5. So this is your final answer. So let's move on. Let's move on to the next question. Let's assume we are given something like this. You have let's look at this. They give you something like this. You have 27 2 over 3 times 16, you have 3 over 4, 3 over 4, all over, you have 4, 1 over 2. I want you to try this on your own. Now, you know this thing will become cube root, right? So this is what we have. We have cube root. You have 3 here, 27. Then raised power what? The 2 here. The other times the other one also, you have 4 root. You have 4 root. Then 16 raised power what? Raised power 3. This is how you just do mathematics and art. Once you understand the logic behind it, then it will be easier for you. Then this one will be square root. You don't need to put 2 here. 4 raised power what? Raised power what? 1. Now to solve this now, cube root of 27 is what? Is 3. Then 3 squared times cube root of 16 is what? Is 2. And for root of 16, what number I multiply in 4 plus equals 16 is 2. Raised power 3. Then square root of 4 is what? Is 2. Raised power 1. Then you can do this. 3 raised power 2 is what? Is 9. 9 times, then 2 raised power 3 is what? Is 8, right? Over means divided by what? Divided by 2. You can do it like this, or you can use lots of indices also, no problem. So lots of indices, division first, right? Isn't also board mass. 8 divided by 2 is what? Is 4. So that will be 9 times what? 9 times 4. And 9 times 4 is what? That is what? 36. So 36 is your final answer here. Now let's move on. Now the next one, let's assume we are given something like this. Let's assume we are given let's say negative. Let's assume we are given there's another one here. Sorry, let's clear this thing. If it doesn't clear, let me clear it. It should be able to clear now. What is the problem? I'll move on to the next one. Sorry for the delay. Okay, now you give me something like this again. You have 27 2 3, then times 64 raised power what? Minus 1 over 2 all over minus 1 over 2 all over 32 raised power minus 2 over 5. So how do you solve this? Now to solve this, the same thing we're going to do here. That will be cube root of what? 27, then raised power what? Raised power what? 2 times, now the same thing, square root. No, I told you that this thing is over 1. Deal with the minus first. It will be 1 over 64, right? 1 over 64 to avoid confusion. You can just do 1 over 2, no problem. We're still going to change it. Then this one also, you know, this is minus 2, the same thing. This 32 over 1. This minus will turn everything to turn it upside down. That will be 1 over what? 32. Then you have what? 2 over 5. So you can move on there. The cube root of 27 is what? Is 3. So you have 3 squared here. Times this one becomes square root of 1 over 64. If I'm right, yes, I'm right. Raised power 1. Then this one is also what? 1 over 32. This will be 50 roots. 50 roots like this. Raised power what? Raised power 2. So you can now go further. 3 raised power 2 is what? Is 9 times square root of 1 is what? Is 1. Square root of 64 is what? 8 times 8, that is 64. Divided by 50 root of 1 is 1 over 50 to 32 means 2 raised power what will give us 32. How many times you multiply it on a number you multiply in 5 places that will give 32 is 2. Raised power what? Raised power what? Raised power 2. So you have 9 times 1 over 8 over 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is what? Is 4. So you can proceed. This 9 times 1, this one will multiply one number at the top. 9 times 1 is 9 over 8. Now, this over means divided by 1 over 4. Get that logic? Over means divided. You know it's division. So you can go further in your primary school. 9 over 8 times, this one will go up, this one will come down. 4 over 1. 4 here, 1. 4 in 8 is 2. So your final answer equals to what? 9 over 2. That is that. So put this down. Let's move on. Now the last one here. Let's look at the last one here. So we have something like this. I think this one is even easy peasy. Let me check another one that is even more complex. Okay, let's do this one. There's one question here that I want us to do together. I think we can be able to solve it. Then we are done. Look at this question. Question is a bit tricky. So you have, they give us something like this. How can we solve it? You have 5 here. You have 1024 s. This s is not 5. S is per minus 10. They put it in brackets. You have another one, 1 over 2. Hey, they want to kill us. Now this is very easy. Now if I were you, do this one in this. First of all, leave this one out first. You are still coming back there. The basket is still on top of it. Leave the basket here like this. Solve this one. Now I told you earlier that this thing here, this 1 over 2 means square root of this thing here. So square root of 1024, what number we multiply in 2 places that will give us 1024 is 32. That one is done. Now x raised by minus 10. You know this one is a letter, it's x. So you are going to use this one, it will be minus 10 times power. Remember our fractional laws. That is, it means this minus 10 I'm multiplying by 1 over 2. So 2 here 1, 2 here 5. Minus 5 times 1 is what? Is minus 5. That is what? S raised by what? S raised by what? Minus what? Minus 5. That's what that one is. Now you now go back again. You know that this root 5 also, it means you can write this as saying 32 s raised by minus 5, then like this, 1 over 5. Do you know that now? Yes, you can do that. It means 5th of 32 means what number you multiply in 5 places that will give us 32? You know it's 2, right? And this one here is a letter. So you are going to divide this 5 by the power of this letter. So x, that would be what? Minus 5 over 5. So your final answer would be what? 2. Minus 5 divided by 5 is what? That is what? Minus 1. So this is your final answer. Now, that comes to the end of this thing. Under this particular first week, there are questions from the notes. There are some questions about evaluation assignment questions that I want you to solve. Solve it, make a comment on the comment section. I'll be happy if you can solve it on your own, and I'll be glad if you do it right. Thank you. See you in